Though you said jobs are fleeting, but we'll always be okay. Especially when you talk to somebody who's 30, and they think they've hit a dead end, or they think they can go no further, or they think, just life is over. You just look at them, you're so young, right?
Yeah.
You have so much road, ahead of you. Building wasn't on fire. You guys weren't running out of these buildings.
And I was talking to one of the trust officers, and she looked at me and she said, I wish I knew what our clients do to be where they are and why I'm here. Well, they're not smarter. They don't work harder. They just took the chance.
They walk away from their corporate life. They move to Northern Michigan. They buy a ski shop with 50 plus years of soul.
I love golf, but I'm not going to be the guy that moves down to Del Boca Vista and hangs out and just plays golf all day in Florida. That's not who I am.
It's one single answer. You belong here.
What happens when two seasoned professionals, one who managed billion-dollar philanthropic portfolios and another who helped steward century-old legacy brands, they walk away from their corporate life, they move to Northern Michigan, they buy a ski shop with 50-plus years of soul? I'll tell you what happens. You either get one of the craziest pivots that I've ever heard of or one of the most brilliant. So we're going to see sitting down with Christine Donovan and Adam Weems, the new stewards of the Bahnhof Ski and Sport in Northern Michigan. Their story is a masterclass on reinvention, stewardship, risk, and choosing a meaningful life. So let's dig in. Christine, Adam, thanks for having me here. I'd like to say welcome to the show, but it's really welcome to your
Welcome to the shop.
your living room in the shop.
Kind
here,
of, yeah.
basically.
Welcome to the Bahnhof.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you very much. So this is really exciting for me because the building that we're sitting in has been here for well over 50 years, right?
Yeah, it was built from the ground up by Greg Smith, one of the original owners, and it's been here since the early 70s.
Yeah, 1973, I think.
It's an icon in the Northern Michigan region here, Petoskey, Harbor Springs area specifically. And it's snowing, so totally apropos that we're doing this. We got 8 inches earlier this week. We're getting another maybe 10 or more tonight. So we're stuck here.
No, and the mountains are going to open, Nubs and the Highlands are going to open this weekend coming up. So, yeah, we're going to be ready to ski.
Awesome. I think I've got a coined term here for you guys. The power couple of reinvention.
Yeah, we just heard that and we both snickered a little bit.
Good.
So.
Good. All right. Well, so no pressure. I mean, to live up to that. But seriously, I mean, your move here to what you did, kind of on paper, makes close to 0 sense. But then as soon as you hear the story and you hear the passion and you hear the real journeys of each of you, you are both uniquely qualified to be doing exactly what you're doing right now.
Reminds me of when I went to tell my boss that I was retiring. He got this look of panic and he said, "Did you win the lottery?" I'm like, no, actually, it's crazier than that. So,
well, good. I think everybody's going to find out that this makes perfect sense that you're here. So, Adam, Christine, welcome to your shop. Welcome to my show. And thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So it's been a fun conversation. So, Christine, can we start with you? Could you give us just a little bit of background? I know you built a career in finance. Few other waypoints along the way there of a fun life. You've mentioned that you always knew you were a little different.
So let's just say that reinvention it's a thing for me. My dad was in the auto industry. I grew up here in Michigan and spent my childhood running around in the woods, right? And playing in the river and picking wild blueberries and having the time of my life. And then we got transferred around New York, Indiana. I ended up at school at Western Illinois University, which is where Adam and I originally met. And I went to school to become a professional flutist. And then I got out of school and discovered that I had to eat. So I just started taking a few temp jobs here and there, and I ended up working for the Catholic Church. as a temp company called Christian Brothers Services that does benefit plans.
Actually, we talked about this because I
Yeah.
went to a Christian Brothers
Exactly.
high school.
Right.
De La Salle, you said there's 100 of them.
There are De La Salle high schools in just about every state, and so you learn a lot about the workings of the Catholic Church by working in it. Much different experience, but I worked on the retirement plan side, so we handled a defined benefit pension plan that covered employees of the Catholic Church, and I left there when it kind of came to me that a woman in her 20s probably wasn't going to make it very far in the church. So I was in the process of getting divorced at the time from my first husband, and I got a job with a bank working on retirement plans. And after a few years, my boss pulled me aside and he said, "All right, so you've got some experience in the arts, you've got some experience in the church. We are looking for somebody who will grow our business in working with nonprofit organizations. So will you help us build that business?" Sure. Why not? Right. So I moved from the retirement plan side to the investment management side, working with nonprofit organizations, helping them manage their money, build planned giving programs, increase the donations that they were bringing in, managing relationships, sales and service. And that was a pretty big pivot for me as well. I moved to the Northern Trust Company in Chicago in 2015 and ended up building out their donor advised fund, which is a philanthropic vehicle that's similar to private foundation, but a little more accessible to individuals. And we had a great time. We brought that from about 300 million in assets up to about 1.5, 1.7 billion. And it was fascinating for me because during the pandemic, I got to work from home. And it was the first time I had ever had the opportunity to work from home. And I got to see my husband every day. And I got to hang out with my dogs. And I got to turn the computer off at 5 p.m., start a fire in the fireplace, or sit out on the back porch with a glass of wine. And it really struck me that quality of life is so much more important than the number of dollars you're making in your career. And so, Adam isn't afraid of change either. He'll tell you his story in a few minutes. So, the two of us just started talking about what we wanted to do next and how we could find a way to be successful in something together. So, yeah, that's my preface.
Well, and you did mention that you came home to the dogs. I don't know if they're in the shot, but there are 3 Bernese Mountain Dogs.
They're ridiculous.
Breathing on us,
yes.
At least here. And I have a fondness for that. I have a St. Bernard, so the breathing is nothing new to me. We did wipe up some drool off my iPad a few minutes ago, so that was good.
They may poke their heads in
okay,
here and there.
Here we go.
They know
we're being talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. Adam, why don't you go ahead and give us a little background about you? Because you've kind of gone from grocery stores, steel industry, and some other really cool ones too.
Yes.
So walk me through this.
Yeah, so like Christine, change has never been hard for me because life is about change, right? We're never static. We're always moving. And I grew up in a family that was, you could say entrepreneurial, but that was probably before that word ever became big. Because my great-grandfather started some grocery stores, little grocery stores in Joliet, Illinois, and a little corner one. And then my grandfather built another one. And then my parents took it over. And at one point in time, we had up to 4 stores, I think. And my brother and my sister and I all kind of worked in it and learned that. And as I went through, though, I went to school again at Western Illinois University, where I studied music business with a percussion minor. That is where Christine and I very briefly met for a year or two before we separated ways and went on to different lives for a bit. But coming out of school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, right? I was kind of that lost soul, if you were. And so I went back to the grocery business for a while, and I ran one of the stores for my parents until one day, you know, and I say this with a lot of heart, networking is so important, right? And so a guy that I knew who was dating my sister said, hey, we're always looking for people like you at this place. And the name of the business was Ryerson. They were a metals distributor. And I went and interviewed and got a job, and I moved from the grocery industry to selling, you know, distributing hard, heavy metals. All at this time, I was still kind of playing in a band in the background and always wanted to be
What's
a
your
rock
instrument
star.
or instrument?
I'm a drummer by trade, percussionist, as most would say, because I can play a little bit of all of the percussion instruments, and that's what I studied.
Give me a list of a few of the percussion instruments so everybody knows.
Sure. So a little bit in drum set. Everybody's, you know, familiar with that. Hand percussion, conga drums, cajones, a little bit of piano, all the concert percussion, marimba, xylophones, vibraphones, timpani, so all of that type of stuff. And we could go into that in a whole nother podcast.
I have a set of bongos, right? No.
So that was going on. I was living in Chicago, so we were playing in a band. It was the early 90s, so we got to play some really great gigs. And again, we could go into that a whole another podcast. But as I started to get into there, and I realized working for Ryerson was fun. I was doing inside sales, but I was a little older than most people because I had spent time working in the grocery business. Another acquaintance of mine said, well, you know, we're looking for people to help us, you know, kind of do some business development for this company. And what they did was corporate training on computers. There was this little thing that was just starting out called Microsoft. And what they did was they would go into bigger corporations who were moving from Lotus Notes or things like that into Windows 1, Excel 1, all of this. So I jumped into the computer world for a little bit and started learning that. As that company grew and it was time for me to kind of move on to another role, I was ready to move into more account management. So I'd kind of gone from inside sales to business development. Now I was ready for account management. I went back to the steel industry and worked for a now, I guess you would say it's a defunct name, but the company is still part of it, but Inland Steel. And Inland was a well-known legacy steel brand. They had their own mills and everything in northern Indiana. And I was an account manager on the Ford Motor Company account. So I sold hundreds of millions of dollars to Ford Motor Company in flat rolled steel and participated in some things. I remember back in the late 90s, I was selling a whole bunch of steel in one of the F-150 reboots, right, where they were doing this. So I learned a lot about true heavy manufacturing and all of that. And then as that time came, and we were going through things like tariffs and all of that back then, I was actually downsized. So, you know, part of my story is that I haven't willingly left every job, right? And that forces change. And there's nothing wrong with getting a riff or being let go or whatever. It forces a change. It forces you to rethink what you're doing. But that's when I had the opportunity to then follow that passion back into the music industry. Still doing the band thing, but I had the opportunity then to actually go back into music manufacturing, instrument manufacturing. And so you start to see how my world has kind of gone from this retail thing to sales into heavy manufacturing that brought me into music manufacturing. So I was very fortunate to go to work for a brand by the name of the Zildjian cymbal company. They turned 450 years old.
That was wild when you told me that.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
Most people don't know that. And I got to spend about 4 years there as the educational manager. So it got me back into music education. I was building new product, coming up with new products, sponsoring and dealing with some of my drum heroes, right, as an artist relations manager and doing all of that. And just got to meet and travel the world and meet some of the greatest people that I'd ever would. But it taught me a lot about stewardship, as we've talked about a legacy brand. What a lot of people don't know about the Zildjian cymbal company is they're still family owned. From Avidus I, back in Constantinople through now, they are still the family that owns that business. There is no private equity. The board of directors are the daughters now. It was a very male-dominated thing until the latest group, the last two groups of ownership have been all females.
Yeah, and we had
which
talked
was
about that.
great.
We had talked about this with whether it was with. I mean, there's so many different folks that I've interviewed. The Weingarts family, the Elise Fisher from Nubs Knob.
Yep.
And this whole concept of stewardship and like, hey, I'm only here for a certain period of time to do my part, but I'm carrying on this legacy brand, and that's really what you guys are doing here, which is
100%.
it's such a staple in this region. So I know there will be people watching this from out of the region who maybe don't know that, but there'll be a lot of local folks from the community who can really appreciate that. But whether you're from here or not from here, you can certainly appreciate 100-year brands, 400-year brands, 50-year brands, because they're just not as typical, especially with the private equity churn,
Exactly.
of consolidation, roll-ups, things of that nature.
And that profitability is everything, and making money is everything. And I think, as you'll see as we talk more today, that money is important. That's how you pay your bills, right? That's how you feed your 3 Bernese mountain dogs, your kids, all of that type of stuff. But I think what Christine and I came to understand was, what are you willing to do and how much is enough, right? And I think that's something that we said to each other quite a bit over the years, is how much is enough. To just put a bow on what we were talking about, when I left the music industry, my last job there was the global product manager for Ludwig drums. Again, 120-year-old, brand, which was very funny because that was the first drum set I ever played when I was a kid.
Some Ludwigs.
And I had the opportunity when I first moved to Chicago and was playing in the band. We actually lived in a loft in the old Ludwig drum factory.
So we just took a little bathroom break for Maisie the dog, and we're all back.
Yep.
Let's finish up with you were at Ludwig.
I was at Ludwig
Okay.
and finishing up, and so after I was done with that, I did a complete career flip.
Okay.
I moved back from Charlotte to Chicago, where Christine was working at Northern. We had a little apartment on the north side of the city, and I looked at her one day and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am right now, because I'd been in music for so long and doing all of that. And I remembered my days doing the training in computers and all that, and I got involved in software as a service, specifically in government software, which was a complete, like, out of the blue, didn't even really know that was like a vertical, like government software.
No, but you needed something different.
But I needed something different, and then I found a purpose.
How old were you, by the way, at that time? Would you guess?
Had I turned 50 yet? I was maybe in my late 40s.
Okay. Because I think that's highly relevant, especially for folks watching, because I talk to people all over the age ranges, and, especially when you talk to somebody who's 30,
Yep.
they think they've hit a dead end, or they think they can go no further. Or they think, just life is over. You just look at them, you're so young, right?
Yeah.
You have so much more road underneath, ahead of you.
It's so interesting that you say that, though, because everything that we've done and all the changes that we've made and our willingness to take chances and do different things. My son, Alec, who is 29 going on 30, same age you're talking about here, he went to school to become a mechanical engineer. And he got his MBA, and he was working as an engineer, and he didn't want to do that anymore. So he's actually taken the leap that he left his job. His wife, who's also an engineer, is in a spot where she can support them while he figures out who he wants to be next. And I think when you look at the example you set for your children, you want to show them that bravery. One of my favorite quote: "Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is a small voice at the end of the day that says, 'I'll try again tomorrow.'" Right? And as long as they get up and they try again tomorrow, you're going to be fine. And that's what Adam was doing when he moved into government software. He was just trying again tomorrow.
Yep. What was really interesting about that, and what we were just talking about off air, was that I finally found a company that was purpose driven, right? That the CEO, I'll never forget it. It came out, he's like, look, We have investors. They're not private equity. We have private investors, though. And they know that what we're doing is the right thing. So we're going to build the right software. We are going to help modernize our governments, bringing cloud software to governments so that they can work better for us, for our people, the constituents. And it, like, that just caught me. I'm like, purpose driven. That's the right way to go. And I think that's something that Christine and I, throughout our years, have always been drawn to.
Yeah.
Her and the philanthropic side of it, me getting back into music and being a very large part of music education and helping kids and watching kids grow and do all of that, finding a purpose. So one of the things, as we kind of spin out of our history, that we get into here at the Bahnhof, and one of the reasons why we loved this place was it brought all of those things that we've done over the years together into one spot.
Yeah, I think it's like you were building a toolbox
Exactly.
all the way along. Right?
Yeah.
Great analogy. Absolutely.
That's perfect. And I think the one thing that kind of weaves its way into the center for us is finding ways to do well and do good. Right. And for me, I think the 7-8 years I spent at Northern Trust, that's a company where it's all about doing the right thing. And I'll always remember my first day of work there. You walk in and you've got the HR orientation, and we're going through our orientation, and here's your badge and here's all the stuff. And the CEO walked in and he sat down. And he said, "My office is on the 3rd floor. You need to know exactly where it is. If anyone ever asks you to do something that is immoral or unethical, you come and see me and we talk about it, because it's not going to happen. This organization is built on integrity and service and expertise."
Could you take a quick little pause and explain what Northern Trust does?
Sure.
Why that is so relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Northern Trust Company is one of the largest financial institutions in the world, headquartered in Chicago. We talk about integrity. You with OpenGov and the way they approached doing the right thing. It's hard to find that in the financial industry, right? You think about all these mega corporations that are just out to make another buck. Northern Trust is one of those places where every now and then you might see a sports agent or Secret Service or someone of that caliber in the lobby, because it is a financial institution that is built on creating the best financial experience for the ultra high net worth individuals across the world. I think on almost every continent they have an office. They also do mutual funds and custody for very large pension plans and nonprofits across the world. But it's an institution that was built in Chicago back in the mid 1800s. And that always drew me. Like organizations that want you to do the right thing as an employee and that treat you like you're a human being. It's so hard to come across today. So there are organizations that treat you like a number. There are organizations that don't care about you and your family. Adam came from a business that was run by his family, right? And I had never really worked for an institution that viewed me as an important human. And that was a big shift, I think, for me in a lot of ways. And it built so much confidence in me, in who I am and how I work. And I was given the tools to build something amazing. And I think when you have support from your spouse and from your family and from your employer, you come to a place where you feel like you can do anything. And that's one of the things that we're bringing here, or we're trying. Our hope is that we can have those conversations with our employees and help them to know that we care about them. We care about this community. we want to do the right thing as well.
Well, I
Because
mean, it
that's
starts with that intentionality,
Yeah.
right? You have to intend to do it first, and then you have to intentionally practice it on a daily basis in order to intentionally get good at it.
Yep.
So the nice thing is you've had some modeling,
Yeah.
right? That has taught you it. You've got to see it, got to experience it, got to experience some things that you didn't like, in your careers. Let's move on to the leap, which made you give up what were fine careers, right? Because both of you were doing well when you decided to make this move.
Sure.
Obviously, COVID had made some changes and some just visibility to you of what was important, but it wasn't like, the building wasn't on fire. You guys weren't running out of these buildings in order to come into
No.
to doing this.
Yeah, no, we weren't. But what we were doing is we weren't liking the people that we were, right? Or the people that we were becoming. And I think that that's something that Christine said at one point in time. Did I like myself today based on what I had to do? Right. And you can still do everything with all the integrity in the world. You can still do the right thing. But sometimes the right thing is really hard to do and it feels bad or wrong. And you've got to do it. Like letting someone go or all the things that you do as you move into management and all of that. And I think it got to a point where do we like who we're becoming on a daily basis? And can you sleep at night because you do this? Or can you find that time to relax or get out? And I think after COVID, we started just to realize that we liked the people that we were becoming because that work-life balance was a little bit more in balance. That we could see each other and have a cup of coffee in the morning as we got going, spend time with the dogs, all of that type of stuff. So I think that leap started to say, that the leap itself started from we don't like who we are, not what we're doing, but who we are. And I think that made a big change. Coming from a family of entrepreneurs, I had always been interested in man, it'd be great to be my own boss, right? So we were always looking.
Never gonna be the boss.
I know who the boss is. Yes, we're pretty good partners. I will.
we are there is no boss.
Because also I think hopefully what people have heard in this is that, and we'll talk a little bit about what it's like for us to work together. We have really complementary skill sets.
We do.
So there are things that I have done in my career, things that Christina has done in her career that I don't understand half of the stuff sometimes. And she's like,
I don't understand
you're really
half of what you do
exactly.
I'm delighted. He does stuff that would take me months, and he's here, let me, and it comes out and it brings me such joy at the things that he can do.
So but the struggles with that too is we're still trying to figure out how do we work together, because we both also have the personality that we want to do it right, and the things that we want to do.
We both feel the weight, I think, of the legacy here and the stewardship. And I think if there's a place that we're still trying to jimmy around, it's that we both feel like we're 100% responsible, which in a way we are, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel like I have to do everything. Mm-hmm. And Adam feels like he has to do everything. And we are figuring out now, little by little, that here are things that I don't have to think about because he's got them, and vice versa. There's a joy in that. And I think, going back to what you were saying about coming home at the end of the day and saying, I didn't really like myself today. That was post-COVID when I was back in the office 3 or 4 days a week. We had moved out to the far west suburbs of Chicago, and, my commute was anywhere from an hour 15 to an hour 45 each way. Dead stop in the Eisenhower Expressway. Went through a lot of audiobooks, and it didn't feel like it was worth it anymore. And I think one of the things that really hit me was our best friends kind of took us aside, looked at me and said, you're not happy, mm-hmm. right? You're not fun anymore. You don't laugh anymore. And for me,
It was true. I mean, it really was, but it took, some very good friends of ours to be, just straight up
Well, I think that says, I
honest.
mean, that
And I
says,
love
that
it.
says a lot that I mean, not everybody allows anyone. I mean, most people actually don't allow anyone to truly speak into them and the truth and what they're seeing, and doing it in a loving way, or acknowledging it that it's
Yeah.
in a loving way to say, hey, it's not that we don't like you. You're just not being fun. And what?
Yeah.
The girl that we knew that we all loved isn't laughing and being silly, and honestly, Christine she is that person. She's a silly person. She laughs a lot.
You don't have
I love-
three big dogs hanging around and not
Right.
be a little silly. I'll
Exactly.
tell you that much.
Exactly. So
Oh, I acknowledged him again.
I think it was those were the catalysts to this. Outside of, boy, wouldn't it always be nice to be your own boss? What we're finding out, being your own boss there's a lot of work.
Sure.
Absolutely.
But it's great
it's
work.
so much more fun.
And rewarding, yeah.
And we also do it for the right reasons. So many, many years ago, back in the music industry, there was a gentleman who is an icon and has passed, but at his memorial service, there was a video, and it was something of him saying, he goes, I always said to myself in this business, if I do the right thing and build the right stuff, the money will come. And I took that to heart. That day, things switched for me too. And I think that's where Christine and I, with the stewardship of the Bahnhof, right? Understanding the legacy of it, what has come before.
It's heavy.
It's heavy, but we need to do the right thing so it can continue to grow and be here for whether our son Alec wants to take it over, or maybe somebody in the shop, one of the kids that works for us who's going to college, comes back and says, whenever you're ready, we would love to do this, right? So that it continues on. And it's not about my legacy at that point. It's really about the shop's legacy and what the shop has been bringing to Northern Michigan for over 50 years.
You guys ever listen to or read Zig Ziglar stuff from back in the day? Do you remember Zig Ziglar?
I remember Zig. I didn't follow along that much. I got much more into Simon Sinek over the years than understanding your why and all
so
that.
Zig Ziglar would always say, you can have anything in this world if you help enough people, enough other people get what they want in this world.
Yeah.
And, whether you look at it as though caring for the employees, caring for the store itself, caring for the name, right? Anytime you place it on something just bigger and outside of yourself, I do find that things work out, right? And you recognize that when you have a kid.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All of a sudden, the importance shifts, and good things come to you because you cared more about that person than yourself. So, I think that's great. I think that there's such a humanity to what you're talking about too, of the recognizing, hey, I got to make this change, and then okay, now that I'm in this change, I realize, it's got to be bigger than me. Right? I mean, all of these different things are really interesting, and I don't know how else you get to those points without taking risks, being open to changes, and things of that nature, and then working hard. I mean, you had told me a story a few weeks ago about hard work. I'd asked you about hard work, and you were telling me that you slept in the factory. Weren't you spending? You were spending a night somewhere in the factory to get your work done. I think it was that the Ludwig family factory.
So funny.
Go ahead.
Am I right about this?
It was a condo in the former Ludwig.
In a former factory.
Okay.
So we had my first apartment in the city of Chicago was in the old Ludwig drum factory.
Okay.
So how that then many years later becoming the product manager there, as it was part of it.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
But
if
he
it
does
was
work hard.
Okay.
But there were many a times where I was getting ready for trade shows or doing this and spending very late nights in the factory, putting some drums together, like putting the last lug in, doing this so we could get it in a box and ship it to the trade show.
That you could then go work at.
That we could then go set up at the trade show and do all of that. But those are the things that you do. It's an ownership mentality, right? That something Christine and I are working very hard on ourselves is the idea of working on the business as much as in the business, and learning how to be able to delegate to. We have a wonderful staff here. We have not lost anyone since we came on board. They all stayed. They have all put their money down and bet on us, and that makes us extremely happy. And they're all very talented at what they do, and they love the shop. You know, that's the thing that blew me away. That I have had both of our buyers have, you know, our main buyers have said, we do this because we love the shop, right? They loved Greg and Lindy, the old owners. They loved Don and Jason, the owners who had it before us. They're getting to know us, but they're here because of the Bahnhof, and that's amazing.
Well, I think what you'll start to see too. So I grew up working in a Bavarian Village ski shop, which then Bavarian Village got bought out by Boyne Country Sports ultimately, and Bavarian Village, the ski shop, and even you know, going to visit some of the other people that are still part of the current regime and everything. People will come back, right? You'll have that 18-year-old kid comes back and he's 40. I grew up working here, you know, and like it
All
would
the
happen
time.
all the time. And there's something very special about the ski industry, and I'm sure you see it in other industries as well. But I mean, it was very, very homey, very much a family, very much the so many learnings. I mean, on the way over here, I actually called Kevin Moore, who was my boss at Bavarian Village, who now runs, you know, a shop down the road here,
Yep.
right? And so, and I said, you're getting an honorable mention tonight, right? Because you know you contributed to my career, and you know that there was something very special that you learn in this industry. So I would love to hear what you guys have started to witness from all the places that you've been to all of a sudden being in the ski business, and what's the feel of the ski business different than the other businesses?
So I kind of want to go around and come back to that question because I want to answer one of your other questions a little more effectively on the leap, right?
Okay, sure.
Because I think this all comes together. We looked at a bunch of businesses, right? We looked at a couple of ice cream shops. The first one that put the spark in our minds was a canoe livery, and it turned out to not be a good opportunity. But the thought was, what if we could do something where we have this business and we could be outside?
Be up in an area that we want to be in. Northern Michigan was calling, really, at that point.
You know, I mean, I've been coming up here my whole life, right? I grew up downstate, but we got married at the Mason Chapel on the Osable River. This is our home. Even before we lived here, it was home for us. And so, you know, we looked at the canoe livery, we looked at some ice cream shops, we looked at a couple of other things, and it was January 1st of 2024, which, you know, everybody looks at that as the opportunity for a new leaf. And I saw this business listing, and it was an outdoor specialty retailer in northern Michigan. You know, and it's New Year's Day, right? So you're sitting in your sweatpants and you're full of cheese and you're just tired and you don't want to go back to work the next day. I'm like, hey, look at this. And we both read the listing, and it hit every possible button for us. And so we, the next day I called the broker, and I was in a conference room on the second floor of 50 South LaSalle at Northern Trust. And I walked in circles around the conference room table going, yeah, for almost an hour. And it was like the light went on that this is exactly the sort of thing that works for both of us, right? It's Adam's a great skier. I ski, right? We've got the summer business here that's kayaks and paddle boards and water sports, and you know that's my heart too. And it was the opportunity to come up here, and it felt immediately right. And it took us a long time of due diligence because, you know, working in the financial industry, I'm not going to make stupid risks. And we went through a lot. We spent a lot of money on lawyers and accountants and making things happen. But when we got here, I think it immediately felt like home to me. I don't know about you. It was like, boom, here we are.
Well, it did, you know, to tag on to the end of that story. So when we signed the NDA, they sent us what the shop was. I'm like, I know that shop. I used to shop in that shop because my family would come up here to ski at the Highlands and at Nubs when I was a little kid. So I'm like, yeah, we really need to look at this, because I knew the shop and I knew all of that. So, and once we got up here, just, we rented a house in downtown Petoskey, and it just immediately felt like home. And so, the people here, so this kind of circles back to what have we seen now, right?
Yeah.
Because the leap made it a lot easier, because we were looking for a place in northern Michigan, a place that was outdoor, that was, skiing, snowboarding, kayaking, bicycles, all of that kind of stuff. But that was also profitable and sustainable. And this, we weren't like looking to reinvent the wheel.
And something that tugged at that whole integrity, legacy brand, all of that together.
Yep. All of those things that we kind of built the toolbox, as you alluded to. This fits. I've got all the tools. Christine's got all the tools. They're lined up. And how can we do that? But what's really been interesting about this place, and I'm going to use our cameraman as an example today. We were talking and getting ready to go, and he said your mother worked here, right? Back in the
business partner.
Your business partner's wife.
We get that all the time.
I have people come in. I worked at the Bahnhof. I had a lady come in the other day. I worked at the Bahnhof when they also had the shop over at Nub's Knob years and years and years ago. We have people come in that are like, my grandparents bought me my first pair of skis here, and now I'm buying my grandkids their skis here, right? It's amazing the amount of people that come back year after year, generation after generation.
And on a lighter note, it's made me a much better driver, because if I were to do things differently, I probably wouldn't have gotten the personalized license plates on our cars when we bought the shop.
Bahnhof 1 and Bahnhof 2.
Yeah, and in a town of 5,500 people, right? You cut somebody off in traffic, you're going to hear about it. So
we don't drive like we're in Chicago.
We don't drive like we're in Chicago anymore. But it's amazing to us how welcoming the community has been, and how everybody has a story about the Bahnhof. It's, I got my first skis here. My mom bought me my first snowsuit here back in the 70s, or, my brother worked there. My dad worked there. Everybody has a connection in a town this small. It's small towns can be strange. When we were in the process of buying, my best friend and I came up here. It was in March of 24. And I said, I have to know if I can live in this town. Right. And we went to Tap 30 downtown Petoskey, and we had some beers, and it was great. And we went to Meijer, because I'm not going to have a Target to shop at, right? You got to have Meijer. And everywhere we stopped and everywhere we went, people were warm and welcoming and friendly, and it's that times 1,000 now that we're here.
I will bet, and we want to make sure we talk about this is the standpoint that it could also look like these rich folks from Chicago breezed in and bought the store. And I think people should know that, like, you guys really have put it all on the line and risked it.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue into this, because doing something like this is our retirement, right? We both left the corporate America. This is part of that change that you're talking about, and not being afraid. So yeah, we cashed out 401ks. We did this, we did that. We sold our house in the Chicagoland area, and we put everything in here because this is our retirement, right? I'm not going to be the guy. I love golf, but I'm not going to be the guy that moves down to Del Boca Vista and hangs out and just plays golf all day in Florida. That's not who I am.
I give $5 to the first Seinfeld reference in meetings.
Okay, there you go.
I owe you. I'll have to get your Venmo.
So yeah, so we took our life savings, or portions of it, and did that. But the thing that's interesting, and I think that people need to understand, is that the support for each other allowed us to do that. Again, I've been let go from jobs. I've switched jobs. Christine was fortunate enough to stay within an industry and really work for 3 companies over her time. But there was never a point where we didn't say, I got you. And so by taking that money and doing that and creating a whole new mortgage structure for a business and all of that. I got you. She's got me, right? And I think that's what makes that easier to do.
Well,
It does.
you said a quote though. You said jobs are fleeting, but we'll always be okay.
Yeah.
And you're okay because you have a partner saying, "I got you."
I got you. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I love that support.
And we have a tendency, and I mean this in the best possible way. We like to worst case scenario things.
Oh yeah,
Because
straight to dead.
exactly.
Okay, maybe not that worst, but you know.
But I think fear comes from the unknown, right? And if you look at it and you say, really, what's the worst thing that can happen here? Okay, so let's say global warming hits northern Michigan and it never snows again. All the employees hate us. The building burns down and we have nothing left. We both still have skills. We have family that would take us in. We have each other, and we've got friends. So we're never gonna end up living in a refrigerator box, right? And I think on the days when it's the middle of April and everybody who lives around here is kind of done with winter and they go on vacation and none of the tourists are up here yet, and you have 2 days in a row without a single customer in the shop, because that's what April is here, right? You can start to run circles in your own head and
What if nobody ever comes back?
Exactly. Right. And it'd be easy to start freaking out, but we're gonna be okay. And
there are times where one of us will come home from the shop and we'll have that day, and the other one will say, "We're going to be okay," right? And that changes your perspective. It also, when you can sit out on the back porch with your 3 dogs and your supportive spouse, and with a glass of wine and look at the trees and listen to the wind, right? Sometimes that you just need to recharge.
Or you look out the back window and it's a winter night and you can see the lights because Nubs is blowing snow. Right. We live close enough that we can see the glow. Yeah. And that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
It's funny. What you're saying here is reminding me of my sister-in-law. I can catastrophize.
Yeah.
Right. And I can go through all those thoughts. 2 things. One is when I'm thinking about anything, I always go, okay, what's the worst and what's the best?
Yeah.
And then I'll land somewhere in the middle, because I know my predisposition is go worst, but then I force myself go best as well. To add that in. But she bought me this little sticker that I didn't stick it to my mirror, but it's sitting rested right in my mirror in the morning. It said, "But did you die though?" So I look at that every morning, and whenever I'm thinking about like, oh, that was so bad, or this is it, but did you die? No, you didn't, right? I mean, so as long as I can answer that, I'm okay. But I got you. That's a wonderful thing to know, at all times, and whether it's you for each other or your family or the community. I think it's a great motto or mantra, or just.
And the community up here, I think, is we can spend time, right? And we're going to get to know it. But the community is starting to, we're starting to see people we know now.
Well, now that they know you're not those rich bastards
and we're
who
not
bought
those,
the
right, exactly.
We're going to scrape the name off of the front of this place and turn it into
something that
into a
it's
sprawl
not
mart or
supposed to
something
be,
like
right?
that.
We
right?
have kept all of the things that they were doing before, like the Bahnhof Race League over at Nubs, right? We said we are absolutely in that.
Fully committed, right?
And fully committed. And I actually, participate in it. I'm old and slow, but that's all right. We have
They'll
fun.
love you for your handicap.
And they do. They love us for
exactly.
the handicap. But, we're supporting things at Crooked Tree Arts in Petoskey, because we feel that this area has given this shop a lot over the years, and we want to make sure that we, as the stewards of it, give back to it.
From my perspective, having worked with organizations that build community for the last 30 years, I think it's really worth commenting how strong the Petoskey Harbor Springs area is in having tough conversations and making change in community. You know, one of the things that affects us, that affects a lot of other business owners, is the lack of affordable housing.
Oh, sure.
Right? That's a really big thing around here. And, you know, the Chamber of Commerce has been getting people together to learn about what's happening. There are projects to build more housing. You know, there's still a long way to go.
Sure.
But there's a recognition of what needs to happen to make the community more welcoming and more habitable for its residents. And that's something that's really drawn me in. You know, there are organizations like the Women's Resource Center here, which helps women and children in need from a variety of different tragedies that I'm fortunate I've never had to deal with. But, you know, I was a single mom for a long time. I got married when I was 21. I had my son when I was 23. I was divorced at 26. And then until Adam and I got together when my son was 15, figured it out. And there's nothing that makes you understand both how alone you are and how much a part of everything you are, all at the same time in this crazy mixed up way than trying to do it on your own. And what I've seen is this area is very good at trying to tell people they're not alone. The people that we work with and the people that come into our shop, they're so focused on family and community and doing the right thing for Northern Michigan. I think that makes it feel like home very easily as well.
You know, it's interesting also though in a tourist area, or an area that's often funded through tourism. Community is not just locals, right? And so you don't just serve the local community.
Yep.
You serve the person who's here on a vacation or the person who comes up here seasonally. And so community, you know, is multidimensional.
Just by being out at Nubs and playing in the summer golf league, right? I've met people that, well, we're here in the summer. Nope, we're here in the winter, right? And started, you know, to see them and become friends with them, because they always say it takes a village. Well, this village is actually a global village because people come from everywhere and they have their second homes here, or they still come up every year and they rent the same house or do all of that. And it's really fun. Christine wasn't here this morning, but I was in doing something and a lady came in and just said, is Christine here? We met her last year when we came up, right? And it's just great because they remember those things and they remember the shop and they remember when we do nice things for them.
The couple from Ohio, there's this sweet couple from Ohio. They're just absolutely adorable. They were up here before they got married. It was, gosh, it was almost a year ago, I think. And this has become their favorite place to vacation. They came up again right after the wedding, and they came back in and they sat and had conversations with us. They buy a few things here and there. They've been in this shop probably 5 or 6 times from Central Ohio. And, you know, they wrote us a thank you card for being kind to them when they came in. And it's amazing to me that the number of people from Chicago who come in and they live in the same neighborhood where we lived. And, you know, it is such a small world, and the ability to make connections and bring the world into our own little existences is pretty cool.
Well, I'm gonna piggyback off that a little bit, because specialty shops are not always known for kindness, right? And I don't know if you've ever experienced it, whether it's the bike shop. You know, you go into the bike shop and the guy knows way more than you, and you're a fool for bringing in this hunk of junk. You didn't even know it was a hunk of junk because you're not an accomplished cyclist. Or the golf shop, you know, because you brought in your Costco irons, and you know you didn't have any idea that there was ping and all this other whatever. You know, the kindness in the specialty shop is not always a thing. So when you're getting remarks like that, especially from someone who's traveling in, is not in the in crowd or the race crowd as it would be in, you know, in the ski business, or totally in the know, right? That's an interesting bit of feedback that you got there. So how do you build on that?
Well, I want to first call out our staff, because one of the reasons why that is this way is because the staff has been here, some of them have been here for 20 plus years, all of that. Their goal has always been, we're going to treat everybody to the best of our ability. We have brought that in. That's been that's where we started, again, with all of our backgrounds. So that meshed really well. So I do want to call out the staff that's not training that we had to do.
No, and I want to build on that and yes, and that, right? This morning on Facebook, someone, her name's Deanne, she was in the shop this morning. She bought all sorts of stuff from Missy. She comes in every year, and she posted on Facebook. She said, to all my ski friends, come to the Bahnhof. Missy knows everything. It was basically a love letter to Missy and what a great buyer she is and how well she treats people. And that's what the staff does here.
Yeah. So with that, this is going to go into something that you and I talked about, was how do you take a legacy brand though and keep it? How do you continue to make sure that it's there for the future? How does Zildjian do 450 years, right? How does Ludwig do 120 years? How does the Bahnhof do 50 plus years? And so you have to be able to juggle that with, to answer your question, how do we let more people know about it so we can continue to get more people in? How do you modernize an older brand without losing the integrity of it, right? And so one of those things are, as Christine said, I am not the biggest social media fan ever. There's a lot of reasons, but there's a lot of good that can come out of it. And this is one of the ways. We're trying to make sure that we keep our social media up to date, right? And things happening.
Dogs.
We love dogs here, right? Not just our three, but if you follow us on Facebook, if you follow us on Instagram, when somebody brings a dog in, they get their picture and they get posted on Facebook.
Great. I mean, but
And
think
they
about
get
that.
a Bahnhof dog bandana that they get to wear home.
My mom and my dad just sent us another
Box full of them.
That's how they're involved with the business. They make Bahnhof bandanas for dogs. They send them up, and every dog that comes in gets a bandana. They go on our Facebook page.
We read a book at our company called Unreasonable Hospitality. I know that I just stopped in and saw Ben, who we did an episode with at Nub's Knob, and Ben, I said, Ben, we got to do an update from last year. What have you been reading? What have you been talking about? He says Unreasonable Hospitality. And I said, Ben, it's like one of our favorites. And so when you think about that, and you think about, okay, I'm the specialty shop, a specialty shop with very nice, like we're sitting around, I don't know if the cameras are catching it, but we're sitting around some of the best brands in ski clothing here. Yep. And you can bring a dog in here. So if you talk about a specialty shop, we got to, how do you make it not snobby? Well, you make it homey, and you let the dog in, and then you give the person a gift for even doing so, right? Instead of, oh, don't let your dog touch that. And you can totally understand why somebody might act that way and not want a dog touching this stuff. But in the same sense, how do we build this? How do we build this up to where it's something that, it's more viral? Oh, well, it's this friendly, it's unique in the sense that it's a specialty shop. It's friendly, it's approachable.
Right.
You want to say,
and that's the idea behind all of this type of stuff. We still sprinkle in, check out this Obermeyer jacket, check out the Goldberg we've got, but we want to show more the personal side of what it is, and I think that that's what's growing. We have a really big commitment to kids programs here as well. That's the other thing. We have a whole room dedicated to kids clothes. We have our kids club programs, right? That's building towards the future. That's doing that, and doing those things. The other thing,
and by doing that, that's another piece of approachability,
exactly,
to the sport. And Scott Stillings, God rest his soul, Scott, who worked for, Scott gave the snow report for years on the radio. He was a ski rep. For people who don't know him, he worked here for many years, and his whole plight in life was to turn people on to the sport. And let them enjoy it, and let them find the love of the sport that he had, and to share it with others. And so I think, you take this legacy brand, you take people like that, you continue to sprinkle it in with your own bandanas and whatnot. And I think you're on your way. You're doing it.
I feel it. Like I said, we're trying to do the right things, right? That's at the end of the day, our motto for ourselves is, are we doing the right things? And I believe that we are, but that's how you're going to continue to have a legacy brand, stay a legacy brand. And then that's how you're going to be able to, when you do pivot to do some new things, the community responds.
Yeah. Back to the staff, I think one of the best things about them is not only are they kind and wonderful and customer oriented, but they will also call us out if we do something that they think isn't in the best interest of the shop. They'll pull us aside and say, "This I don't understand this. I don't like this. We have to talk about it." And we do our best to listen and figure out, where is this coming from? Is this person right? And if so, how do we adjust to move forward? If we think that maybe they're not right, then let's have a conversation and see if we can come to a place where we all have an understanding going forward. Because when you've got a staff this small, everybody's got to like each other.
Oh yeah.
Well, and everybody's got an opinion and all of that. And what we have in our staff, honestly, if you take from Gary, our warehouse manager, who's been here for 40 plus years as part of that. Yeah, that's all. We have over 100 years, outside of us, over 100 years of expertise in the ski industry, clothing, hard goods, all of that. And we owe it to them, and we owe it to ourselves to listen and create an atmosphere that they're okay talking to us.
I was going to say, what have you done? That's your corporate people.
Yep. And believe me, that was a strain for them, for the staff at the beginning. Don't turn this into a corporate thing.
But what do you think in your own personalities, or even modifications to your own personalities that you've done to allow them? How were you vulnerable or open, or what do you think were a couple of the things that you did, or that you're continuing to work on for yourself to make yourselves approachable? I mean, was it that you listened to the CEO at Northern Trust and you said, okay, my office is right here, everybody needs to know where it is? Like, what sort of things have you guys done, or have you considered doing, or just what's the intentionality behind that? Because obviously it's important to you guys.
I think it's just about communication, right? We're not perfect. And I know I'm not perfect. And I'm sometimes a little bit of a bull in a china shop. I get ideas and I get really excited about them and I just want to run. And there's a tendency to just be so excited about stuff that sometimes people think that I'm disingenuous, right? And so I've had to stop and say, all right, I'm really excited about this, but I also want to have a conversation about it. And I think the excitement, for both of us, right? You walk in on day one and you see a million things that you think you can do better and different. And we committed that we weren't going to make any real big changes for a year.
So I think that was partially key. When we first met everybody, we said there will be changes, but we are not making any fundamental changes to the way this business is run for a year. And I think everybody had an opportunity to breathe a little bit. Yeah. Now, I'm going to tout on Christine a little bit because she came into the shop for about 9 months before I was here full time. And what she did, I think, to do that, and what I'm doing now, is she threw herself in. And we talked earlier about working on the business and working in the business. She worked in the business. She learned how to fit ski boots, and she's become a pretty darn good boot fitter. And that is a thing that's very, very important to this shop. And so she's out there talking to women skiers, being a part of the community in that. She's fitting boots. She can talk skis. She can talk clothes. Right? She has been up and she has asked the staff, train me.
Treat me like I'm 5.
and treat me like I'm 5 and train me to do this. So she is doing that. I'm doing that now, taking boot fitting classes, right? Working. One of the first things I did the day we bought the shop, I walked right in the back and started scraping skis and I told Andy, our shop manager, I bought a ski shop because I like to work on skis. Show me how, I want you to mentor me on sharpening edges and waxing and doing all of this. And then at the same time, we also just try to keep it relaxed. We try to keep it fun. We try to, and we also then, I think it's very important is the communication and listening. We gave a lot of people like official titles, right? And said, now that this is your official title, what do you think? One of our guys who's now in charge of rentals. It's a mentorship program from the two of us to him, but we're like, you're in charge of rentals. What do you think? Well, I have this idea. All right, try it, right? Go for it. Again, going back to your sticker or your magnet, did we die? No, we're renting skis, man. Let's figure it out. Let's do this. But he is going to grow from this. We're going to grow from it because we're going to learn a lot of it. So I think that's the key to this is being humble enough to say, I don't know what we're actually doing. I've loved to ski my whole life. Christine's loved to kayak her whole life. Running a ski shop, it's a different beast. So those of you who have done it for more than 8, 10, 20, 40 years, teach us.
There's always the fear of job security when there's no ownership change, right? And I don't want any of these people's jobs, right? And I heard that a lot. Well, are you going to take over all of this stuff? And what I've been trying to do is I want to learn. I want to know what you do. So teach me what you do. I'm never going to be as good at it as you are, but teach me what you do so that I can give you the tools to do it better. Sure. And
maybe even get them a day off too.
Well,
if they need a day
there's
off.
That. I think you just nailed it though. If I know what you do, when you come to me with your struggles, I can empathize. And then we can work on a solution to make it better for you, because that will make it better for the shop, and that will do that. So empathy plays a big part in that.
All right, so I'm going to ask this question, and it's a little out of the order so I've got 2 things that I've got circled here that I want to make sure we talk about. But what is one thing about running a ski shop that totally surprised you? So both of you could be, and hopefully this is something humorous.
Something that totally surprised me. I'm gonna honestly say what's totally surprised me is our customers, and how familiar they are with this place, right? I mean, people coming in and they start talking to me. Oh, you're the new owner, great! And like I'm supposed to know everybody that worked here for the last 55 years or whatever it's been, or people that come in and just start to like. They go right to where they are, and there's like, oh, I know what I'm doing and all of this. So that was a big surprise to me at this shop is, the depth and breadth of who our customers are, and the ones that just come back year after year after year. And they're just like, yep, Missy works every day except Sunday and Thursday. I mean, they know that. Those have been her days off forever. And they're like, I'll see you on Friday or Wednesday, but I won't come in on Sunday. I won't come in on Thursday when I'm looking for clothes. So that was a big surprise to me.
Well, I think you've got homework. I think with you, working in all these legacy brands and knowing so much about all of those brands, maybe you could write the book on the history of the Bahnhof. Because one thing we didn't talk about, because we did it kind of off camera when one of the dogs had to take a potty break here, was you had talked about that Bahnhof actually had a number of stores at one time, and actually I think it was up to 20 with maybe 10 at once at the most or something like that.
At once.
And so a lot of the history. It'd be interesting, some of these other little microcosms of information, if you could pull some of that together and
Gary Hunter
and tell that story.
Well, we have a guy, Gary Hunter, who has been, as close to the beginning as possible. But You know, just a little nugget, and maybe we can make a coffee table book
I
that,
love it.
that becomes a coffee
That becomes
table.
a coffee table.
Now you owe me
Perfect.
$10.
I only pay for the first one. The rest are all
That's
are
very
all
smart
just
because we live on Seinfeld references.
But what a lot of people don't realize is where the Bahnhof actually started. It wasn't called the Bahnhof. It was the ski shop over at Otsego. Okay. When it was a private hill. And Lionel Hayes, which is Lindy's father, was ski patrol or ski teacher or something over there, and he and his wife started a shop because they needed somebody to show all of the people coming up from downstate, all of the wealthy folks, all the clothes and all of that. And they started to realize that they couldn't show the same clothes every year, any of the leftover. So they opened a second shop here in Petoskey, and it was in the train station. And those people who know German, which I didn't until we started looking at this, Bahnhof in German is train station. So that's how the name came out, and it was opened in the train station.
I had a Sicilian guy tell me the other day that it was called, it's highway, but I have a feeling that you're probably correct.
I looked it up, and it is. It said train station or something like that.
Well, I don't take my German lessons from fellow Sicilians. Yeah.
Right. So so that's like a brief thing, but actually I have thought about what it would be like to like get Gary and then Lindy, who is still around in the area. She has a summer home out here, you know, those stories and all of that, and with her son, and do that and put something like that together. But there's a lot of cool things about it. But that's kind of the beginning.
So Christine, back to the question of what's something that you had no idea, totally surprised you about running a ski shop?
So this is why I love this man, because he gave me a minute to think how much my feet would hurt. I had no idea. I've been sitting on my butt in a chair in an office for 30 years, and I had no clue. I have gone through different shoes, different insoles. I ruined a pair of custom ski boot insoles by putting them into my tennis shoes to try and make my feet not hurt so much. Had to get those redone. Luckily, I know somebody who can do that. I actually ended up at the podiatrist a month ago, and now I have little metatarsal felt pads that go in my shoes. It's grueling to be on your feet all day, every day, after being an office potato for 30 years. So yeah.
That, and I will attest, she would come home and just be like, "Oh my gosh, my feet hurt so much." Oh, for months, and just lay in bed, and then she'd like get up in the morning and take little step after little step.
My dad went from the computer business to owning a boat store in Southeast Michigan. And that was his biggest complaint. But there also, because it's the boat business, you have to wear boat shoes all day with no socks.
No socks.
So,
no support.
I can't imagine the blisters.
So that hurts too, but that's a great one. I wanted to go back to a piece in the story that I think will be really exciting and, or at least very relevant for entrepreneurs, business leaders. You know, that moment when you guys said yes to this, which then, you know, totally officially removed you from being employees and moved you to being owners, now responsible for a payroll. And I think that's one of the biggest shifts that I think that people go through in the employee to owner mindset shift, right? There's so much value to being an employee, right? Because there's a lot of stuff you don't have to worry about. And there's so much value to being an owner because there's so much other stuff that you have to worry about. But you can't always see the forest for the trees because you're so deep into those numbers. You can't always see the whole picture because you're working on your part of the business or whatever. So kind of two different things. But when you made that shift, talk about that, right? Talk about like what it was like to, okay, the switch flipped. Was there anxiety there? Was there excitement, combinations? I mean, I have to imagine there's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I'm not smart, but for me, it was just a whole bunch of joy and excitement. I mean, here's the thing. I've been down. I've been on the verge of losing everything. When my son was little, The worst thing that could happen is he would get invited to his friend's birthday party because I didn't have enough money to buy a present, right? And buying a present for a friend meant we were eating macaroni and cheese 3 times that week, right? I'm not afraid of being poor. I'm not afraid of losing. Um, and I don't know, maybe I should be more afraid. Yes, there's anxiety, right? And I combat that with data, right? I put together this way too in-depth cash flow prediction analysis that is moderately close, right? So, um, when it comes to anxiety, I'm very pragmatic about it. I'm just like, all right, how do we get past the anxiety and back to being excited and fun and full of joy?
Yeah, I think for me, it went back to do the right thing. And we know that we've both been with good bosses, we've both been with bad bosses. I've always been a firm believer in any situation that you are in, you will learn something. It may be what not to do, but
Yeah.
you're going to learn something. And for me, it was a freedom of being now able to say, it's our turn. We don't have to answer to anybody. We get to make the choices because, again, good bosses and bad bosses, but you have to live with their choice because it was their name on the door, so to speak. I will say that Christine has dealt with it very well because she's a numbers person and can make it black and white. For me, I rely a lot on the fact that I managed people. We both managed people in our thing. I've taught a lot of students over the years and learning how to deal with multiple people trying to tell them the same thing and learning how to say it multiple different ways. But really, I felt freedom is what I felt.
Yeah.
That now it's on us. And I like the challenge. I love my partner.
This
But
is the best Adam I have ever seen.
It's the challenge. And it's about doing the right thing. So I felt the freedom of saying, now I get to prove to myself that all those times I said, if I was in charge, it would be different.
But here's the thing, though. Here's what's really interesting is that you don't have to prove anything, right? And but that's the beauty of being here, right? You're at a place where you don't feel like you have to prove anything to anybody. You're just here and you're showing up. And there are days that I'll say, dinner will be ready at 6:30 and he comes rolling in at 8 o'clock at night because
one of my favorite things to do, and it's probably going to happen when we're done here tonight, is I love being in this shop at night. Going to the work, and I've got a pair of skis of my own that I'm going to scrape later, but just to the feel of it. Just staring at the boot wall when we were switching over from summer to winter and we got all the boots up. I would just sit down and grab a beer out of the back room and all the lights are off, all the doors are shut. I just love the vibe and being here and the sitting around. And sometimes, and this is also one of the things to answer your staff question again, those that are able to have a beer with me, right? We actually just sit around and we talk about skis. We talk about boots. Even though we've been doing it all day, we still talk about it, but in our own way, about our own stuff, about our own ways that we ski. And I think that I learn a ton, but they also learn, from Christine and I that we do care, right? But I just love being in this shop.
And to go back to something we had said earlier, since we've moved up here, I don't think there's been a moment that either of us has come home and said, I didn't like the person I was today. Right?
Well, maybe that one day after that one golf round where I didn't play well.
But we're both, I think, we're being our best selves and that we have to be careful that we don't let it go to our heads. Because I think that there's
another good thing about our staff. They are not going to let that happen.
No, that's very, very true.
They will call us out.
They will call us out. But we're the luckiest people we know. When I left the bank, the number of people who just couldn't believe You can do that?
They looked at you like you were the caveman around the fire, creating fire for the first time. Like,
Exactly.
this is possible.
Right? How you mean you can just leave and just go do something else?
I can't tell you the number of people from Christine's past that way and mine that were like, I wish we could be you. And that was one of the things that you talked about, the leaping off point and all of that. One of the conversations we had looking at her clientele, looking at the people that were in the startups that I was in, I'm like, well, they did it.
What?
Why can't we?
They're not smarter than we
They're
are.
not smarter than we are because
They're
they've hired us and we help them run their business and go public or
Right.
or build the fund or whatever. Why can't we? And that I think
Okay.
was the biggest leaping off thing of saying, yeah, we are smart enough. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, I remember I was in the restroom at the bank one day, and I was talking to one of the trust officers, and she looked at me and she said, I wish I knew what our clients do to be where they are and why I'm here. And that really got me thinking about it.
That was a light bulb moment.
That was a light bulb moment. I'm like, well, they're not smarter. They don't work harder. They just took the chance. Right? And I think fortune favors the brave. And if you are always afraid to take the leap and you're always afraid of, what could happen if it doesn't work out, then if you always do what you've always done, you'll always have what you've always had. And so here we are.
And so here we are.
Well, I think the entrepreneurs, the business folks, I think are going to appreciate those insights there for sure. Last focus here, I want to talk about with everything that you've learned, what do you hope that people feel when they walk into this store and when they walk out of this store? And I want you to give me that both in the standpoint of your employees and really your customers. I mean, both of those folks. And it might be the same answer, but walk me through that.
All right, I'll go first this time. Give you a minute to think. Because I was oddly enough thinking about that. 3:00 in the morning, I wake up and have conversations with myself in my head. It's one single answer. You belong here, right? I want our employees to feel like they belong and that this is a place that they can come and be themselves and have joy and be a part of something that is awesome and fabulous. And when customers walk in, I want them to feel like they belong here too, right? You might be an incredible ski racer. You might be somebody who hates the cold and wants to come and find something to keep you warm. You might be 3 years old. You might be 100 years old, but you belong here. And we want everybody to feel welcome and warm and sit around and have a beer and feel like they just...
Well, we don't actually serve beer, but
it seems to be part of the culture.
But
I definitely know that it's part of the ski business.
yeah, no,
it's not a ski shop unless there's beer in the fridge.
in the fridge in the back.
Served to the people who are of age to
Yeah.
legally consume it.
Right, exactly. Although for winter welcome, we did have hot cider and cookies out for the weekend over the last weekend, and so, and so I concur with all of that. I really do. That is, but I want to answer then when they leave. Right? You asked about when they leave. What I want them to leave with is being more educated.
Good point.
I want them to understand why a thermal layer as a base layer is going to perform one way as opposed to a different way, or the difference between waterproof and, water resistant, right? Or why this ski or this boot will be better for you. One thing that we are very, promoting and starting to is, the women in the ski industry. And what's the real difference between a woman's boot or a women's ski as opposed to a men's ski and a men's boot? And bringing that in and getting people to understand the differences. And I want my staff to feel like they've gotten a better education so they can explain it. And I want our customers to come in, feel welcome, not feel intimidated, and that when they walk out, that they're more educated and that they can be more successful on the ski hill, or if they're kayaking or biking or doing whatever, that they can be more successful at it because they know more.
You know, I have a friend who is a mentor to me. You don't know him. If somebody watches this multiple episodes of our podcast, they'll hear me say it because I say it in probably every one. But his name is Paul Glantz. He runs the Imagine movie theaters in the downstate, and they're in a number of other states as well. But he always says, deliver value in excess of what someone's paying you. So whether they're paying you nothing, right, just deliver value everywhere you go. And so when I take the you belong here plus the educate to me says deliver value in excess of what they're paying for. If they're paying for a boot, they could buy that same boot online, similar price. They can come here, they can buy it, but you're delivering value in excess of what
100%.
they're paying for. So I think that's fantastic. I think all of these pieces that you're bringing to the table are the toolbox to carry this place on the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it is that you guys find yourself as as the stewards, as the caretakers of this place. And so I just wish you so much success in this. And I think everybody who watches this will have learned something about you or from you that they'll take away and find very special. So thanks for doing this with me.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. This is super fun. We I think spend a lot of time kind of with our heads down and staring at numbers and plans and such, and having conversations with bright, fun people. And from the outside, it's super enjoyable.
Awesome.
It is. I would just leave you with make sure that you continue to pray for snow.
Yeah.
As we're getting, and it's going to be a good thing.
Yep.
And then as we've learned from our friends at Nubs, but we've kind of adopted it, that we'll ski you soon. Right?
And with that, I'll ski you later.
All right.
Sounds good.
See you
Thank you
later.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.